Okay. And extending from that to, that's the sort of state level question from earlier here. Obviously, you're going to have a much harder time pursuing pro-gun policies in a place like California than you are in a place like Alabama or Texas or Georgia or what have you. How do you guys approach that issue? Like, how are you rationing out your resources to have the most impact?
I think we still need to have conversations in California. We still need to have conversations in hard places or in quote unquote really blue places that might be hostile when we're talking about gun ownership and this fundamental right. It doesn't mean that we can't and shouldn't be having those conversations. We will. In terms of a strategic allocation of resources, we do take really seriously. We have a ton of individual, thousands of donors from across the country, supporters to our political advocacy efforts. These are your listeners and everyday gun owners who are giving on average, $20, $25. And we take that financial stewardship really seriously, the responsibility that you have opened up your wallet and have trusted us with that. And so how do we be the best stewards possible of those resources? And how do we make really key strategic decisions and investments in specific states where we think we're going to make the biggest difference? We're in the process of identifying that, especially over the next year. And when we're thinking about 2024, the race, of course, for president, but there are many down ballot races that are also going to have a considerable impact. Where gun owners are, where they're living, what states, where can we activate them in, where is it most critical to do so? We're going to continue that sort of evaluation again to make sure we are being the best stewards of the resources that we can.
Okay. And let's get to the resources part of this, because that's what makes, I think, USCCA's entrance into the political realm, or, it's not your first group, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but this effort that you guys are putting forth in a more serious manner, really interesting. You talked about having 800,000 members earlier, and what, every group talks about how they have hundreds of thousands of members. The difference, I think, between every town's claimed number of members, or some of the other gun rights groups' claimed number of members, and you guys and the NRA perhaps are the fact that your members pay money to be members. They're dues paying members, which I think is a massive distinction to like a list of emails, that you sign up to follow the newsletter of a group. It's not the same thing as signing up to pay them money to be a member. And so obviously 800,000 is not 5 million. It's not even, 4.5 million or whatever the NRA is currently claiming at this point. They still have a much larger advantage over you. And, they're still at their peak. They were like a $400 million organization between all the groups that they have set up. That's a huge hole to fill if they're not going to get back to that level. And they don't seem like they're going to get back to that level anytime soon. So, what realistically can you guys do on this front to plug that hole to increase even beyond where the NRA was at its peak in 2016 or whatever?
Well, we know we have upwards of 20 plus million gun owners in America. So the opportunity, the market share is huge here. And of course, USCCA members are paying us. The benefit from them, of course, is our world-class firearm training, education, and our self-defense liability insurance. And that's what people look to and for when they come to the USCCA. In addition to that, when we're talking about the Action Fund and the other political organizations and advocacy groups that we are launching, we're doing this really, again, as a response to that membership base, they're looking around, they're consumers, they see the 2A sort of political landscape, and they're saying, we want an alternative. We want another group that we can trust with our resources in order to fight and protect the Second Amendment. And of course, the foundation of our business is the Second Amendment and is this fundamental right to self-defense. And it is, of course, in our best interest and in the best interest of our members that we safeguard this and promote it. So we believe there's a huge opportunity here to continue to grow membership in the USCCA, but then, of course, support for our political advocacy efforts across the country, whether USCCA members or not.
Yeah, and I guess that works into the next question I have here pretty well. And that is with the structure of the organization, right? Most political groups, it's not, now you have a 501c3, you already had a super PAC.
A C4.
Right. C4. And, that's very common for serious political players to have multiple legal entities, right? So that you can do different things with different entities. A super PAC can do things a certain way, like unlimited independent expenditures and fundraising, but it has limitations on coordinating with campaigns, things like that. 501c4, donors don't have to be disclosed, but it's not a tax write-off to donate. There's rules around how much money you can or how you can spend your money to some degree. And but most organizations will have 5 or 6 groups at some point. I think the NRA has like 9 different groups, but usually at the center of those groups, you find a C4 or a C3. The C3 nonprofit, that's the one where you donate. Your name is listed to the IRS, but you also get a tax write-off, and they can't do political work. So the difference seems to me for USCCA to be that the center of your organization is this for-profit company, Delta Defense, that sells the insurance, which is the main attraction, as you mentioned earlier, for most people who become USCCA members. Whereas, the NRA, you could argue that the main reason people become members of the NRA is, in part at least, the political advocacy. So why is this a better formation? How do you explain this to people as to why it's going to be beneficial for the advocacy side of things and not a detraction?
I would say Delta Defense has, as a for-profit business, the leadership of Delta Defense has really stepped up to make a massive financial commitment and really an investment in their consumers and in the protection of the Second Amendment through supporting these political advocacy efforts. And I think that is a differentiator. Delta Defense has committed to covering many of the operating costs and overhead expenditures of some of the political advocacy efforts. And so that's a huge win for the everyday gun owner consumer who's opening up their wallet and, providing resources and support to these organizations, because that means that money gets to go directly to the important programming and training and investment in the tools that are really for them, that are for the gun owners. And so I'd say it's a huge benefit. It's a huge asset that the leadership of Delta Defense has said, we're willing to have this financial support. We're willing to make these contributions because we believe so strongly in the importance of protecting the Second Amendment and making that investment that they're willing to do that. And so that is a massive differentiator. And we are thankful that Delta Defense has lent that support.